As most Republicans fully embrace Donald Trump, others are trying to have it both ways by courting his base while keeping Trump himself at arm's length. Meanwhile, Trump is still trying to cover up what happened behind the scenes on January 6th. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. President Biden is currently on a major international trip where he just completed a G20 summit in Rome and then headed to Glasgow for a conference on climate change. And as his poll numbers sag here at home, he seems invigorated by the trip, as evidenced by this headline in the New York Times. Struggling at home, Biden is buoyed by G20 trip abroad. Well, I'm glad you're having fun. Meanwhile, we're all stuck here with our weird aunt and uncle. You kids want some dinner? Well, how you gonna pay for it? Biden's like a divorcee posting Facebook photos from a solo trip to Europe. Next, he's going to post a pic on Insta from a gondola in Venice wearing a sun hat with the caption, "Laughing, loving, living my best life, #blessed." But hey, we've all been there. You're stressed, having a tough time at work, so you grab a pint of Haagen-Dazs and you call up your best bud, in Biden's case, Obama, and say, "I just need a reset." And he says, "When I'm down, I find it always helps to do a podcast with Bruce Springsteen." And then you mutter under your breath, "Well, we're not all you." So you say, F it, you pack a bag, you head to the airport, buy the first ticket to Italy, where you eat, you pray, and most importantly, you pronounce linguine vongole with way too heavy an accent in a way you think will endear you to the waiter, but in reality will only make him hate your guts. Of course, when Trump went abroad, it was more like eat, pray, shove. Eat, pray, shove. Eat, pray, shove. Did you like that one, Wally?
Yes, sir.
Also, I want to note that earlier I chose Haagen-Dazs for that ice cream joke instead of a certain Vermont-based ice cream company, which has still refused to respond to my detailed request for my own personalized ice cream flavor called a Closer Lick. I guess our friends at Ben & Jerry's are lactose intolerant. Lactose intolerant. Lactose intolerant. Did you like that one, Wally?
I don't want to do this anymore.
When did Wally get so choosy? Anyway, the point is Biden is in Scotland for a climate summit, coming off a trip to Rome where, among other things, he met with the Pope for 90 minutes, which, as far as anyone can remember, is the longest meeting any sitting president has had with the Pope, especially compared to Biden's predecessor.
Tonight, President Biden with a very busy first day of his second overseas trip ahead of the G20 summit in Rome, traveling to the Vatican, where he had a lengthy meeting with Pope Francis, 90 minutes in all.
When President Trump met with the Pope, it lasted 30 minutes.
I mean, I guess it shouldn't be surprising that Biden's meeting with the Pope was 3 times as long as Trump's. I mean, knowing Biden, he puts in a good 40-minute with a barista when he pops into Starbucks. Let's run it through one more time, because I gotta tell you, grande and tall both mean big where I come from. I mean, Biden is a practicing Catholic and a man of deep faith, while Trump probably thinks stained glass just needs a little Windex. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what a meeting between Donald Trump and Pope Francis would be about. "It's an honor to meet you, your holiness, Mr. Pope. Can I call you Frank? We love religion and we love church. We love church. Don't we, Frank? The Bible is, well, it's number one, isn't it? That's what it's all about, isn't it? Isn't it, Frank? I like the Old Testament and, of course, the gritty rebook, the New Testament. We love a reboot, don't we? But I like the old. You know who else I like that was old? Arnold Palmer. Met him at Augusta National in '92. Stay with me, Pope. I was there. Do you need to translate? How's his English? I'll just plow through. I was there when he invented the drink. He couldn't decide between lemonade and iced tea. And I said, "Arnold, why not both?" And they go. They go so great together. Just like the Old and New Testament, the Pope fell asleep. Someone wake up the Pope. So Biden is on a much-needed getaway as his poll numbers sag, and Republicans continue to coalesce around Trumpism and the core narrative that the 2020 election was stolen. In Virginia, for example, the governor's race there is neck and neck. In a state Biden won by 10 points. The GOP candidate there, Glenn Youngkin, has tried to distance himself from Trump while also keeping his supporters on board, a task that got trickier when Trump announced that he would hold a tele-rally for Youngkin. Youngkin has said that he has no intention of participating in the Trump rally.
A lot of Republicans would be thrilled to be on a stage with Trump so close to Election Day. Not so much in Virginia. And it sounds like Youngkin won't even get on the phone with him publicly. What's happening?
No, Jim, he has no plans to participate with the former president in that tele-rally on Monday. He has long distanced himself from Trump, but engaged Trump supporters.
The president is doing a tele-rally on Monday. Will you attend, and do you welcome him to Virginia?
Well, so I haven't been involved in that. The teams are talking. I'm sure I've been out.
They would love to have you. Would you like to be there?
I'll answer you in a second. I've been out campaigning. I'm not going to be engaged in the teletown hall, but we have more people helping us than you can possibly believe. This is about unity.
Yes, famously, that's what Donald Trump is all about, unity. If real estate hadn't worked out, he could have been a couples counselor. Have you tried a three-way? I hear that solves a lot of problems. Let me just lock the door. Trump stoked a violent insurrection to overthrow democracy and oversaw a disastrous response to a deadly pandemic, among many other things. He can't thread the needle and have it both ways by courting his supporters while also keeping them at arm's length. It's hard to say, if you like Trump, you'll like me, but I don't like Trump. Also, elections are rigged, so get out there and vote. Being a Republican who keeps Trump at arm's length is like trying to make it 24 hours without seeing any Succession spoilers on social media. It's not gonna happen. You know, I didn't watch last night, but thanks to Twitter, I don't have to. Look, I'm not one of those no spoilers people, but just give me a day. Yesterday was Halloween, and by the time Succession was on, I was passed out on the couch covered in Necco wafers and Tootsie Rolls. The only candy my kids let me have. I tried to sneak one peanut butter cup out of the little one's bag, and he called me a Reese's piece of Then he slapped my hand so hard I had to write with my left one today, which is why the note I left you looks like that. Most Republicans are full-throated supporters of Trump and his assault on democracy, while others, like Youngkin, are trying to pull off a con where they tap into Trumpism as an ideology and court Trump's base without standing next to him on stage. But one reason it'll never work is Trump always makes everything about himself, as he did yet again in response to speculation from the press. He issued a statement insisting that he and Glenn Youngkin are actually very good friends. The fake news media are trying to create an impression that Glenn Youngkin and I are at odds and don't like each other. Importantly, this is not true. We get along very well together and believe in many of the same policies. Cool, I'm sure Youngkin is thrilled to hear that. Republicans in Virginia have been trying to appeal to Trump's base without getting Trump himself involved, but he can't help it. His next statement is going to say, Glenn is too modest to say, but he reminds me of a young Donald Trump. He's like the son I never had. I wish I could name him Don Jr. Just another reminder for Republicans, no matter how hard you try, you can never escape Trump. You guys are like the people who think Chucky's dead because you threw him out a window. No need to look. I'm sure the fall killed Chucky. Now, let's move on from Chucky the doll and talk more about Chucky's ideas. Did the analogy get a little too far away from us? On Fox News over the weekend, for example, Trump appeared with Jeanine Pirro for his regular rant session where she tried to call him a kingmaker but accidentally used the wrong term.
My base has to turn out. If my base turns out, he's going to win. And I hope they turn out. I really want them to turn out. And I think if my base doesn't come out, he can't win. I think my base has to come out very strongly.
Do you see yourself as a kingpin for elections going forward?
Well, something has happened, and this is not from an egotistical standpoint.
Yeah.
It's a great honor, because it's never happened before to anybody. If I endorse somebody, they win. If I endorse somebody, they win. I think I'm 148-2.
You can't just make up your own win-loss record. Otherwise, the Jets would be 7-0 instead of 2-5. Although the Jets did have a big win yesterday. And if I'm being honest, the last thing we need at late night right now is the Jets being competitive. This is already a pretty troubling time for our writing staff in regards to easy New York punchlines. I mean, the Knicks are in first place. LaGuardia is getting redone. It might be nice now. De Blasio's leaving office. Even Pizza Rat went on a plant-based diet. And he looks great now. Here's me earlier today. Handsome jacked rat, question mark? Exclamation point. All I'm saying is it's gonna be touch and go until April for New York jokes until the Mets come back. Although knowing the Mets, they might not come back. Where are you guys? It's opening day. It is? Since when does baseball start in April? Since for always. Also, Jeanine, I'm pretty sure you meant to say kingmaker, which is a good thing, not kingpin, which is usually reserved for criminals. That's a very revealing slip. I'd say it's Freudian, but with you, it's probably Franzian. But gross. We spent a long time today talking about a joke we're not going to do, which is Trump being insulted that he was called Kingpin because he wouldn't like the superhero villain Kingpin.
Never got Daredevil.
As we speak, he's still trying to hide records about what happened on January 6th from the committee investigating the insurrection. And this weekend, we found out more about exactly what types of records he's trying to hide.
They include files from his top administration officials, Stephen Miller, Kayleigh McEnany, and then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Among Meadows' papers are 3 handwritten notes specifically about the events of January 6th.
We did not know what records had existed in the Trump White House before last night. In this court filing, very late at night, the National Archives puts out a list of more than 700 pages itemized saying this is what Donald Trump wants to keep secret. And they really gave details that we didn't know. There are these handwritten memos or handwritten notes from Chief of Staff Mark Meadows specifically about January 6th. There are call logs and switchboard call logs about calls to President Trump to Vice President Mike Pence leading up to about January 6th. These are very specific things. White House visitor logs, White House call records.
Personally, I'm shocked the Trump White House even had any records at all. I assume that place was like a Radio Shack in a zombie movie. Most of the call logs probably just say some guy called, sounded French, or Rudy Giuliani butt dial over and over again. And there's an obvious reason Trump wants to keep those records hidden, as we've discussed before. Trump and his cronies had a detailed plan for overturning election results, and they tried to execute that plan, and they almost succeeded. It wasn't an impulse or a whim, it was a plot. Trump even had a lawyer who wrote an instruction manual for overturning the result, and when Vice President Mike Pence declined to follow through on the plan, that same Trump lawyer told Pence the violent insurrection was his fault as the insurrection was happening.
The Washington Post is now reporting that in the middle of the Capitol invasion, as rioters were overrunning the building and chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," one of former President Trump's attorneys emailed a top aide for the then vice president blaming Pence for the violence because he refused to block the election certification.
And when that aide described the attack as a siege in an email, Trump attorney John Eastman wrote back, quote, "The siege is because you and your boss did not do what was necessary to allow this to be aired in a public way so that the American people can see for themselves what happened." Eastman essentially blaming Pence for what happened on January 6th.
Even as the rioters were rampaging through the Capitol threatening to kill Mike Pence, one of Trump's cronies was still pushing Pence to overturn the result. It's like telling a Walmart greeter to stand their post even as a mob of Black Friday shoppers storms through the front doors. "Hello, welcome to Walmart, happy shopping, help me, I need backup, I'm under siege, I need an extraction unit, oh crap, oh this is just a happy face button." But that's because the big lie that the election was stolen and the idea that the insurrection was justified are now a key part of Trumpism and the core of the modern GOP. And no matter how hard they try, the Glenn Youngkins of the world can't run away from that. Last week, far-right crazy person Marjorie Taylor Greene even suggested that the insurrection was justified by the Declaration of Independence.
But the real truth is the communist revolution that the Democrats funded and waged every single day and every single night in American cities all across our country. You see, that was an attack on innocent American people, whereas January 6th was just a riot at the Capitol. And if you think about what our Declaration of Independence says, it says to overthrow tyrants.
I don't know. You think Democrats are tyrants? Have you ever even seen Chuck Schumer? Tyrants don't wear their glasses that far down on their nose. It's like he's staring at a menu at a diner in the Upper West Side for 3 hours. We're very close to coming to an agreement on whether to split an appetizer. Sir, the restaurant is closing very soon. Okay, well, just leave me here in the dark. I've got a New York Times crossword puzzle I've been working on since 1985. The GOP has embraced Trumpism fully and completely, whether they brag about it or whether they try to play coy. He's sowed a violent insurrection to overthrow democracy, but Republicans are still on board, which means he'll almost certainly try to do it again, making him a
kingpin for elections going forward.
This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help. Now more than ever, if you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, get vaccinated. We love you.